Hi everyone, welcome back. This is lesson 8 in your algebra booklet. I'm going to go through pages 16 and 17 today, and it's part 2 of your application. So in your last lesson, we started some applications. I'm just going to continue with that. I've got a couple examples, a couple word problems to go through today. Before we do that, just some warm-up questions that you're looking at on your page there. We've got the first question in a TV trivia show. A contestant receives 500 points for a correct answer and then loses 200 points for an incorrect answer. We're going to let C represent the number of correct answers, and then we're going to let I represent the number of incorrect answers. Which of these four expressions do you think represents the contestant's total points? So we note that they're gaining 500 points every time they get a correct answer. So we need 500C. So one of these two, A or B. And then we know that they're going to lose 200 points for every incorrect answer, which means we have to subtract 200 times I. So that tells us that the answer has to be B for this question. The second example, we've got a hockey team that earns 2 points for a win, and we're going to use W for the win here, and then 1 point for a tie, and we're going to use T for the word tie here. Okay, so they're going to get 2 points for a win, and they're also going to get 1 point for a tie. So both of these are being added. So 2W plus 1T, that works. And actually there's two answers here. This one will also work, because another way of writing 1T is just T. When there's no number in the front, we assume that there is a 1. So those are your warm-up questions on your page. And let's get into the first word problem. So we've got a pool table here. I love to play pool. It's one of my favorite games. And what they're telling us is that to cover each tabletop, it must have rubber bumpers around the outside of the edge and the felt top. And the rubber bumpers cost $2.50 per meter, and the felt material for the top costs $30 for every square meter. All right, so the rubber bumpers are these plastic things or rubber things that go all the way on the outside. So that could be represented by the perimeter. And then the felt is the stuff that is covered on the pool table, which would be represented by the area of the pool table. So what we're going to use is we need some let statements. So we're going to say that X represents the width of the table. So let X represent the width. And then we want to write the equation for the length. So if we're going to say that the width is represented by X, okay, then our length has to be 2x, because it says a pool table is always twice as long as it is wide. So if it is this wide, if it's x wide, then it has to be 2x long, right? It has to be twice as long as it is wide. Okay, which is what our width is going to be. Width is going to be x, so our length is going to be 2 times x. Question 2. Write an equation to represent the quantity of felt needed for each table. So the quantity of felt needed is going to be the area, and to find the area of a rectangle, we multiply the width times the length, or the length times the width. So in our case, it's going to be the 2x multiplied by x. And if you remember your exponent rules, when we're multiplying 2x times x, we're adding the exponents. Each of the x's has a little 1 as an exponent, and those ones get added together when we're multiplying. So a simplified expression for the total felt, TF, would be 2 times or 2x squared. Question 3. And I just have my answers for 1 and 2 over here, so we can keep track of that even though we're changing the slides. So question 3, write an equation to represent the total cost of felt needed for each table. So remember, the cost of the felt was $30 per square meter. And we're going to use our expression from the answer for number 2. The total area of the pool table for the felt was 2x squared. Okay, and that's going to get multiplied by $30 because it's $30 for each square meter. And a simplified expression for that would be 60x squared. All right, we're multiplying a term with a constant that's being multiplied. We're multiplying the two coefficients, so 30 times 2 to get 60. Question 4, write an equation to represent the quantity of rubber needed for each table. So now we're talking about the perimeter going around the pool table. Okay, so an algebraic expression for that would be x plus 2x plus x plus 2x, right? We're going all the way around and we're adding those 4 terms up together, right? Length plus width plus width plus width. 2 lengths and 2 widths. Okay, and then I just replaced them with my algebraic expressions that I had. And if you remember from algebra, at the start of this unit, when we're collecting like terms, we're adding terms together, these all have the same endings, right? They all have x, which means we can add together the coefficients. So 2 plus 2 plus 1 plus 1, which is going to give me 6. And number 5, write an equation to represent the total cost of rubber needed for each table. So how much is that going to cost? Okay, so we said it was going to be 6x for the perimeter, and it's $2.50 for each linear meter. Okay, so it's 250 times 6x, which gives me 15x. We're setting up these algebraic expressions because if we're told how long the width or the length are, then we can figure out the total cost to maybe replace the felt or replace the rubber. So write an algebraic expression that represents the total cost. So now we're going to be looking at the cost of the felt, which was number 3 here, and the cost of the rubber, which was in question 5, 15x. So we're just going to add those together. Okay, so for one general equation, because in number 7, now we're being asked what is it going to cost to cover that pool table for the rubber and the felt if it has a width of 1.5 meters. Okay, so there's my expression from question 6. And so now I'm going to replace my x with the 1.5. Okay, remember bed mass, you need to square the 1.5 first and then multiply it by 60. And then also multiply 15 times 1.5. I just went back and just added a couple more steps here in case you were confused about where this 157.50 came from. So I just to go over it one more time, I squared the 1.5, excuse me, to get 2.25, and then that gets multiplied by the 60 to give you 135 down here, and then 15 times 1.5 is 22.50, and then in the last step I added them together. So the total cost is $157.50. And one more example, we've got Sam who's remodeling multiple rectangular rooms of the same size at the convention center. Each room has a length of 3 times the width of the room. So if the width is x, then the length has to be 3x, as it is 3 times longer. And then the cost of baseboards is $3.50 a meter, and the cost of carpeting is $10 per square meter. Label the dimensions of a rectangular room to be modeled. So I've done that here on the right. And I have got my let statement. I'm saying let x equal the width. Okay, that means the length is going to be 3x. Write a simplified equation to represent the amount of carpeting needed and then boarding needed. So for the carpeting, it is area, so length times width, so 3x times x. Okay, which is 3x squared. And then for the baseboard, we're talking about perimeter, so we're adding all the sides up going around. So 3x plus x plus 3x plus x. Okay, and when we're adding terms, it's 3 plus 3 plus 1 plus 1, which gives me 8x. When we're adding terms, we don't change the letter part, right? The ending part stays the same. I didn't change my x. When we're multiplying terms, then we are adding the exponent, so the ending part does change. Make sure you know the difference between these two. Okay, so I've got my answers for number 2 above here for the carpeting and then for the baseboards. Write a simplified algebraic expression that represents the total cost of both the baseboards and the carpeting. So now we're just going to add those together to get a total cost expression. Okay, and then we also have to add in there that the carpeting is $10 per square meter and the baseboards are going to be $3.50 per linear meter. Okay, so it's whatever our formula was for the area, 3x squared times 10 plus 8x times 350. And then simplified, 3x squared times x is 30x squared, and 8x times 350 is 28x. So now we have a general expression for total cost, which allows us to determine the cost, okay, of remodeling that room with this following information here. So we want to determine the cost that has a width of 5 meters. Okay, so the width over here would be 5 meters, which means our length would be 3 times as much. So I'm going to replace my x with 5 in the expression. Okay, so 5 squared is 25 times 30, and then 5 times 28 is 140, and in the end we add them together. So the cost should be $890. So that's the end of your lesson. There is some homework. This is attached in Google Classroom. Do all the questions on this page except for number 2. You don't need to do that one. So there's some collecting like terms at the start. There is simplifying. Be careful with these questions here. You're not going to subtract 5 minus 2, right? Don't do that. It's a very common mistake. You want to get rid of this bracket first, which means you're multiplying negative 2 times x and negative 2 times 8 in the first step, okay? Maybe I'll write this out for you on the side here. So what you should end up with is 5, and then negative 2 times x is minus 2x, and negative 2 times 7 is negative 14. Okay, that eliminates the bracket, and then you've got a plus 3 at the end. That should be your first step. And now you're collecting like terms, right? So you can add together the 5, negative 14, and 3, and then you've got a minus 2x at the end. Same thing when you get to this question, right? Get rid of the brackets first. So multiply the 3x by the 5, multiply the 3x by the negative 2x. And same will be here, negative 3 times x squared and negative 3 times negative 3x. So try to follow that. The answers are at the bottom for those. And then there's also answers for the word problems at the bottom here. Number 4, you're just looking for the error. There's something wrong that was done incorrectly in each of these questions here. All right, good luck. Let me know if you need some help.